Hi Scott, can you hear me?
Yeah, hi Adam. I think that's you on as a panelist now. Welcome.
Okay. Hi everyone. Apologies for the slight technical issues there.
Yeah, well, good afternoon, everyone. Good to have you joining us as well as Adam. This is the fourth in our series of B2B Marketing Expert webinars. It gives me great pleasure in a few moments to introduce you to one of the leading B2B marketing practitioners, not only from the UK but probably from around the world. He's had a couple of problems with GoToWebinar, but it can be a bit tricky at times. But Adam's going to talk to us about how we can get marketing onto the front foot and delivers what the CEOs want to deliver. But first, um, just that's today's agenda. But before I introduce Adam, I'd like to briefly put some background to Adam's presentation. Most are joining today or watching the on-demand version because they're realizing that selling and marketing in multi-touch B2B sales cycles is getting much harder. They're beginning to feel the pain of the changing buyer's journey as buyers increasingly move online. And if we want to understand just how challenging it is for businesses when buyers move online, then we only have to look as far as the high street. In my view, for most B2B sales and marketing, we're now in the middle of arguably the most disruptive period ever, and companies need to look and think hard about how they can adapt to win. To add some substance to that, um, I'd like to look at the latest research from Serious Decisions, who are one of the leading researchers globally in the B2B sales and marketing space. They interviewed hundreds of lead buyers from around the world in both SME and enterprise companies across a range of industry sectors that buy complex offering, as well as also interviewing a panel of hundreds of senior sales executives that are selling to those buyers. And the objective was to understand the changing buyer's journey and how companies marketing to and selling to them can adapt. Now, we don't have time for the specific detail here, and if you want it, you can email me for more. But the key takeaways is that the biggest challenge is now getting and holding the buyer's attention throughout the entire purchase cycle. Buyers are more informed, they want more and earlier demonstration of value or ROI, and they are less likely to engage with sales earlier. And during the purchase cycle of education, selection, and solution, the four primary programs that they're most likely to engage with are all marketing led. So the sales cycle is becoming pressed to just the decision or solution area, and the marketing cycle is now encompassing awareness and education and consideration. And that has huge implications for companies that are organizing their people, processes, and technology to try and adapt and win. I've got a quick summary here, which I'm not going to dwell on, but these are the best of the industry statistics that we can find that outline the size of the challenge for companies or the opportunity, depending on how you look at it. So to help us understand how we can do this, it gives me great pleasure to introduce Adam Sharp, who is Group MD of CleverTouch. I met Adam when we were both cited as the two kind of UK based open inverted commas experts in the definitive definitive guide to marketing automation. We don't really compete, however, because we specialize in helping companies of different sizes and we're based at different ends of the country. Adam founded CleverTouch in 2008 after 20 years senior marketing experience in large global organizations such as IBM, Iron Mountain, as well as some more entrepreneurial VC-backed ventures. And CleverTouch specializes in B2B marketing automation, deployment and optimization, and to date they have helped more clients on more marketing automation platforms than anyone globally. Adam is a thought leader and frequent speaker on the topic of marketing automation and marketing infrastructure, and he teaches the marketing automation component of the Manchester Metropolitan University's MSc in digital marketing, and he sits on the IDM Council. Based on its unique position in the marketplace, CleverTouch has also been able to create a number of its own complementary applications, such as CrowdView, which Adam is going to touch on at the end. We'll also have time at the end for questions, so please ask as many as you would like in the question section of the toolbar during the presentation. So without further ado, I'd like to hand over to Adam.
Great, thanks very much, Scott. I appreciate it. Hopefully everyone can hear me clearly. I've just lost my screen there at the moment, so let me just quickly get back up onto a, 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 slide deck that, that uh, that, uh, that, 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 There we go. Right. Can everyone see that okay there? I'll just quickly whiz through.
Yep, that's fine. I can see it.
Okay, so yeah, thanks very much, everyone. So what I'll do here is I'll go fairly quickly, if I may, and hopefully some parts will resonate. And if you want to explore them, as Scott mentioned, please ask questions, or we can take it offline. But it'd be great to get some interactivity throughout the session here as well. So for the next half an hour, I'll throw some ideas at you. Please throw some questions back as well. Okay, so what I want to cover today in terms of takeaways, what the executives want, and I'm going to really cover CEOs and also CMOs or marketing directors. Talk about how marketing should be a little bit more strategic. We often use the word strategic, often as a euphemism for expensive, and actually, all too often, what we consider strategic is actually tactics. How to go about infrastructure and getting on the front foot. And then I'm going to give you lots of examples, not just from the big organizations, the sort of the showy-offy ones, but also those that in the mid-market, some of the fastest growing and most exciting organizations as well. Just leave that there. Okay, so without further ado, here we go. So very quickly on us, yeah, let's cover touch the website. We, as Scott said, we do quite a lot with IBM, eConsultancy, and Forrester as well. So I'll start with this slide really. Depending on which industry you're in, marketing is in various states of transition. We're sort of seeing the companies that first embraced technology were typically the technology companies because they love to throw more technology at it, whatever the problem is. But increasingly, we're seeing sort of a second and third wave of marketing automation adoption and marketing technology adoption. We saw the publication companies and some of the information intensive organizations, and now financial services and banking has woken up as well for very different reasons. It's not just about demand generation, it's managing existing customers and really having that sort of the ability to have a single view of the customer, but also that record of interactions, trackable and auditable as well as repeatable as well. And whichever industry you're in, what as Scott was really talking about, the whole spend is very different. So when I was sort of running marketing organizations, a disproportionate amount of the money was used in media planning, attracting and talking to new customers or new prospects. With technology, social, everything else, it's changed that massively now. So the actual amount of money that you can, or is typically traditionally spent on attracting and finding these new organizations has now shifted massively. The traditional view of price, promotion, product, and place in terms of distribution, there's a lot of talk now. It's been replaced with the 4 E's, the idea of exchange, evangelism, experience, and the fact you've got to be everywhere. And how do you manage those channels as well? And for myself as a B2B marketeer, I actually find the fact that B2B is leading some of the innovation in this space quite uplifting, considering sort of the browbeating we've taken in the past in terms of always being sort of the ugly sister to those in the B2C who frankly talk a lot about brand but are actually scared of some of the technology innovations going on out there. So it's a pretty good place to be in B2B marketing at the moment. And so whenever we talk to a lot of organizations, we sort of see 3 types of companies really. All too often, unfortunately, marketing is seen as a subservient service provider to the sales organization, the sales infrastructure. But increasingly, those organizations that embrace technology and have a coherent plan are really driving change in their organizations. So they're moving up from the subservient service provider to a respected one, and then a real genuine driver of change. And Scott talked about the shifting influence in the funnel, and I'll touch along that later. And so marketing automation is so much more than, if you like, just the lead scoring and so forth. It really is an opportunity of change. And as marketeers, we see those out there that sort of want to drive change and embrace it, and those that want to carry on business as usual. And we often throw this slide in into conversations as well. It comes from Forrester. That today in the marketing organization, in order to be respected, well, the amount of influence is a condition of the amount of intelligent information, a coherent planning you're able to provide an organization. Just 9% of CEOs refer to marketing decision making, and even less for CFOs. And we think if you're able to actually move away from ROI to sort of forecasting and planning the business in terms of future outcomes, you're going to be in a much stronger position, and those percentages will rise significantly. And basically CEOs need help as well. So over the last 3-4 years, the role of the CEO is to hire the right people, over communicate, set the vision, and to manage the revenue and expectations and create cash in the business. The biggest challenge they've had in the last 4 years is revenue reduction in most organizations has basically outperformed cost reduction. And so there's a massive opportunity now for marketers to really embrace and help CEOs drive future thinking and really a coherent framework for the future revenues. The problem that a lot of marketers have is they don't really recognize that the role or what the CEO is looking for marketing, and so we sort of offer this slide up. You will recognize and remember the sort of the Hoover and scandal and the Jared Ratner mispositioning of his products. But the CEOs want marketers to grow the revenue, reduce the costs, and basically don't cock off along the way. But they also want the marketing organization to be a source of innovation. Unfortunately, too many organizations are too busy spinning the plates. They haven't actually got time to be innovative because they're too busy creating stuff and being out there, making stuff happen. The other role that CEOs really want is that of the marketers who maintain the cultural conversation. So over time, markets and companies move away from each other. They split, and part of the role of marketing is to maintain that relevance, maintain that stickiness, to keep that conversation going. So being a weather vane to future trends is pretty important. Knowing where that innovation is just around the corner, but knowing when to turn the corner is pretty fundamental. And ROI, until the marketing organization can actually talk about ROI in a coherent, sensible manner, it was interesting that the CFO gets even less traction than the CEO from the marketing organization. Traditionally, we haven't been great at that as marketeers, and that's no surprising because 20 years ago, marketing was easy. It was outbound and offline, and now you've got to juggle the inbound, outbound, offline, online. It's really, really difficult. And then, for me, one of the most exciting opportunities now is that and many of you might have seen the figures from Gartner talking about the role of IT and the role of marketing in using IT to change organizations, the way they either make money, save money, or make things easier. And more and more, and we see this quite a lot as well, that the CEO is now looking for the marketing organization to translate what the technology can do for the business. Traditionally, the CEO can get a little bit frustrated with the IT function, who ironically are really, really good at planning, but many of the CEOs and board level execs we work with, they see marketing as a source of change, and they want to translate this technology, and they adopt this sort of shoot, aim, fire approach. They know roughly what they want to do, they shoot the gun, they aim it again, and they fire and hit the target. And they want marketing to be reactive and translate what it can do for business. We've been doing a bit of work in the watch industry, ironically, and what is really, really evident there is their ability to move beyond brand and perception and positioning to actually understanding technology is going to be one of their biggest barriers to future success, because they just don't get it. And so we use this graphic quite a lot to explain what is marketing automation, and I'll go through this in a little bit as well. So in the center, you have the web. Many organizations now recognize that the web is central to most things that you're doing. It's a bit like the reception entrance to your business, and you need to know who's visiting your reception, who's signing in, who's looking at stuff and interested in engaging with your organization. The great thing about the EMA is that it gives you the ability to send the outbound emails and then track scoring people based on their engagement, this idea of digital body language. You're in a meeting with someone, you can see if they're bored or interested. You can get the same sort of dynamics from where they click on a website, what they're interested in, what they download, and so forth. And then you can flip the opportunities into the CRM, and you've got a single view. But if you look at marketing automation from the features perspective of lead scoring, I can generate multi-touch, I've got sort of Google Analytics on steroids, you're sort of missing the point, because one of the biggest issues today, again, for the marketing organization is how do we drive change and how do we have the single view so we're not actually running an organization based on spreadsheets or charts. We talk a lot about the campaign has to be longer than the buying cycle, because otherwise you're leaving your marketing to chance. And so when you're looking at marketing automation now, whether you're going to do it with multiple products, at least integrate them so you have a coherent framework. It's absolutely fundamental. So before you do implement, we think it's pretty important to start with the process. Now you can run your business on papyrus and carrier pigeons, but having that end-to-end visibility of when marketing hands over to the sales function and how they run with it is really important. And right at the top here, we talk a lot about the known and unaware. This is a prospect database. Most organizations we deal with, from very small to large enterprises, really underinvest in here. And part of the reasons is they're not thinking about their marketing strategy. Marketing strategy is based on positioning, segmentation, and targeting. All too often people rush to the content, creating great content, and not thinking about who they're going to talk to. And then on the other side of the house, you have the unknowns, and you want to convert those into aware, and then move them through to engaged, the marketing qualified, and so forth. By having a agreed process in the same organization, it means that marketing, again, is driving control and actually pushing accountability down onto the sales force, so that they're not just measured in terms of the number of sales and percentage of quota, but they're forced, you can force them to be measured further up the funnel. So they're measured on meetings to pipeline to conversion, and so forth. And so again, just starting with this process before you start implementing the technology is fundamental. I asked why is this so important. There's some research that came out from Google recently. 57% of the purchasing decision is completed before a customer contacts the supplier. And we see that increasingly in our own market. Organizations will do their research. You know, the web now takes distance learning to an art form. And so organizations will look at various platforms, and then they'll engage us or companies like Scott to really get a handle and validate whether it's relevant for their organizations. But they've already done the groundwork. And that actually creates great opportunities for the marketing organization. It also means that the traditional sales model of having lots of expensive people out on the street is fundamentally needs re-examining. And more organizations are building a layered sales and marketing end-to-end engagement in place. And it makes sense, not only because it's economic, but purely for the way organizations want to engage with you in the future. And we'll touch on a little bit around social selling later on in this webinar as well. Okay, so I mentioned what the CEO wants from marketing. Here's the CMO's agenda. Now, IBM, every couple of years, they come out with a survey of the chief marketing officer. They interview 1,700 marketeers from around the world, and one of the reasons they're doing it, again, is to the fact that they've sold to every other executive in an organization. Marketing has been the one area that has been untouched by technology. HR has had its HR systems, manufacturing has had theirs, sales have had theirs. Marketing is sort of been the unloved or the unrecognized opportunity for what it is. Even today, we see a lot of organizations that consider or think they can market from a CRM alignment system, and you can't. You fundamentally can't do that. Albeit you do, having a platform that links into it is really, really powerful. So, and IBM have done this study. They're about to do another one in October, November time. And these are sort of some of the key takeaways I took from that survey. One, that marketing is really about relationships, not transactions. Sending emails or just deploying telemarketing on its own doesn't build favorability or familiarity. It's just a waste of money. It's a short-term burst of activity and doesn't leave you any better off. ROI, as we mentioned before, is a perennial problem. And then thirdly, there's a fundamental shift in demographics and channels. Certainly social's here to stay. A lot of marketers today still can't get their head around it. It's been seen as the domain of the PR or social media department. And it's so much more than that, because social can be used for selling, for product customer service, for product development, for new sources of innovation, internal communication. There's so much, and actually it needs to be pervasive around the organization. And what was also interesting was that marketing now is more than just brand management. It's actually reputation management. And as I say, I mentioned earlier about the financial services, particularly now, they're seeing the way and how they manage with their relationships with people. It reflects on them as an organization. Having an auditable and a logical process of engagement is very, very powerful. And I'm going to give some examples later on of a very small organization in the financial services that's trying to systemize some of their customer service and their reputation management capabilities, and some of the results that's been delivered for them as well. Okay, so I mentioned the CMO and some of their concerns. Again, the whole bit about ROI, I'm sure a lot of you have had issues around it. Adobe did a recent report suggesting that only 20% of CMOs actually try and measure it. And then that's no surprise, because again, all the different channels out there, and the over-reliance on spreadsheet jockeying and email reconciliation and data list management. One of the things we do in our company here is we actually ban spreadsheets from the marketing organization, because it encourages tactical behavior and ad hoc behaviors. If you're able to measure everything, clean everything within the same systems, then you're never prone to lead leakage, which is often the case. So we talk a lot about infrastructure in marketing, which is sort of alien words, certainly from a couple of years ago, but it's so relevant, whether you're a very large enterprise or a small SMB. I'll give some examples. Recently, we've been working with a VC-backed startup. Their CEO said to us, we've been spending 100,000 per month for the last 3 years, and really we've got nothing to show for it. Another NASDAQ-listed business we work with, the VP of EMEA there said, we're turning over $800 million, and yet we still run our forecasting model on a spreadsheet. It's embarrassing. And so as you move from one organization to another, or if you really want to drive change, one of the things that all marketers have to do now is actually leave a legacy, build a coherent infrastructure, so that as you move on to bigger and better things, or new challenges within the organization, you leave a lasting, coherent footprint, so that you can have a lasting view of prospects and customers. And it comes back to that sales and marketing alignment model, but it also comes back to that coherent framework. We're strong believers that the marketing automation system becomes the platform for everything you do, but then you hang off specific technologies, whether it's around WebEx or events, or GoTo, or some of the social tools. They all integrate into that single platform. And one of the reasons companies aren't sort of thinking about infrastructure and investing in technology is either because they misunderstand the impact or potential it can drive on a business, or they're listening to the wrong people. I can count the number of times when I've gone to conferences in the last 2 or 3 months where I've heard people talking around content is king, and frankly, it isn't. Content is very important, but it's a tactic. if marketeers are over reliant on content and brand identity for their future revenue growth and outperformance, then the outcomes won't be pretty at all. That message of content is king is, content is very important, but it needs to be put in a coherent framework. And this goes back to the relevancy of marketing for the CEO and the CFO. Marketing strategy is all about positioning, segmentation, and targeting. We see too many marketeers today that are just recreating and over-creating content and not putting it in a coherent strategy. So if you want to be relevant to the business, we encourage marketeers to really focus on the business strategy. And from that, a coherent communication strategy can be developed, which results in the content and creative, which can then be used across all channels. Typically, we see a lot of marketeers that run in or go directly into the, I need to create some stuff, I need to get it out there, and they're not putting in that coherent framework. And so marketers are spending too much time on the tactics, so they actually haven't got time to be innovative because they're too busy firefighting or too busy chopping down trees to stop to actually sharpen the axe as well. So one of the messages I hope you're going to take away from this is that content is really, really important. Creative is a great way to reinforce your brand, but don't forget about the fundamentals of positioning, segmentation, and targeting. And that way you can start sort of building longer-term plans as well. And it is a tightrope in marketing. You need short-term successes, but also longer-term thinking and planning as well. So what else can be done for once you've built your sales and marketing alignment in place and started looking at technologies for increased revenue? So what else can be done? Well, I think there's 4 things. One, going back to the marketing strategy, increase the marketing intelligence and insight within your organization. Secondly, build campaigns that last longer than the quarter or the tactical email that goes out. Start using technology more imaginatively and integrate it. I'll give some examples there. And then really think about a coherent infrastructure and complementary ecosystems as well. So I'll fly through some of this quite quickly, if I may. So around the intelligence, one of the first things we'd encourage organizations to do is build that TAM, that total addressable market, and then start looking at it and segmenting it by share of wallet. There is actually a company out there that does quite a lot of marketing intelligence called Segmentrix. It's got some innovative thinking around wallet size and share of wallet. But until that targeting and account planning and definition, particularly in B2B organizations, is done, again, the marketers are shooting themselves in their foot as well. So we encourage organizations to really get their head around their account planning and their account engagement before they even start building content. And as you start building out the technologies, you hear a lot about buyer personas. And buyer personas is quite a tough challenge because effectively what you're doing is you're describing your ideal customers. And you can use structured data like their industry, their company size, their location. But then you're also building in some of the unstructured data like, I want to address change managers or people with 10 years out of university that are building their careers or executives that have got a big budget and reporting capability. But there is stuff out there. One of the products we've been developing and Scott will be promoting into his customer base is this product called CrowdView, which is all about listening for conversations and identifying personas that are relevant to your audiences, to your marketing campaigns as well. And then the other thing I would sort of recommend that you start thinking about as well is moving from personas as well into job clusters. So within the IT sector, we tend to see a lot of organizations that over-target the C-level or the IT managers, and they tend to ignore some of the really important people that are in their space that may be underserved or underloved with communication. We were doing some work with a company, Steve Wozniak's new technology company called Fusion.io, and when they launched over in Europe, they were targeting IT managers. Well, just by focusing on different audiences, particularly around the DBA, the database managers, some of the application managers. They got a 400% improvement in engagement rates as well. So this I think would be, once you look at your data universe of organizations, start looking for customers that might be relevant, and start building out your own clusters as well, because there will be people out there that are, as I say, unloved and largely ignored at the moment. Intelligent campaigns and engagements that can last longer than the quarter. Okay, so workflow works. We see a lot. This is a typical workflow that we will build for organizations, whether they're very small or large enterprises. And what we're trying to do here is reduce the amount of chance in your marketing. So whether you're doing events, the event itself, if you're going to an event, the event itself is just part of the marketing process. So what we would do typically before an event, 6 weeks before, we'd have, here's your exclusive invitation. 4 weeks before, it's don't miss out. 2 weeks before, it's last chance to register. We're building up the tone, and then we have the event, and then we have the warm down, whereby it's either thank you very much for coming along, sorry we missed you, but it's all automated and it's repeatable. And workflow might be boring, but start building these repeatable processes into your marketing, and it means that you'll be able to scale and do some of the fun stuff. Now they don't always have to be quite as complex as this. We did a lot of work for a company called Acronis, and this is a very, very simple workflow. We like the 3-touch campaigns to get activity going, because we often talk about the top, the middle, and the bottom of the funnel, or we talk about the awareness, discovery, validation, very similar to the process Scott was talking about at the start of the webinar. And if you map your assets accordingly, you're able to take people through a bit of a journey, albeit a simplistic one, whereby you're giving them more information, but exchange for information about them. It's the rule of reciprocity. If you go straight to the webinar without the warm-up, it's a bit like trying to, a teenager going in for a sloppy kiss before they've even had the sort of the dance and the chat. You need to take people through that process. And the great thing is, once it's automated, it can be repeated with new assets and so forth. A great example of that is a company called NTR, until they were actually bought. One of the challenges they had was they were sending out ad hoc email communication. And we sort of said, look, you need to build the workflow and build it in a way that it's repeatable, so that once you've identified your audience, you can trickle people into the hopper and it just runs. And what that means is you can start predicting future outcomes based on past activity. And that's quite easy to do. It's bringing a much more science-based approach to your marketing, and it gets you away from trying to justify ROI to actually forecasting future revenues. So the number 948 here in green, within 4 months, the marketing organization here was based on the number of free downloads or trial downloads on a per month basis. And based on repeatable campaigns with new data and past activities, the marketing organization within 4 or 5 months was able to forecast what their predicted outcomes were going to be. And suddenly when marketeers are doing that, they've changed the whole dynamic within the organization, and the credibility of the CEO and CFO goes through the roof. And that's where I think all marketeers now should be thinking about, building relevant multi-touch campaigns and looking for incremental improvement. So while we all love infographics because they look great, you can't run your business off them. So don't forget the dear old boring, unloved incremental improvement, because that's what your jobs are all about, driving incremental improvement and change in the organization. I mentioned workflow, I mentioned joined up campaigns or one-offs. We do quite a lot of work for a company called VMware and American Company. What we were doing here, we were getting the assets, the material from the US agency, and then we were repurposing it. Because the content over here, again, identical content, was managed in a multi-touch logical workflow. And again, the beauty is you do it once, you can repeat it in different languages, so you can scale. Because it was built in a logical order, the results in Europe are significantly ahead of the US. And actually the return on investment on this campaign, because it ran for a 6-month duration, was 44 to 1. So as marketeers, you've got to get the short-term stuff going in the business. Be busy, but don't forget planning for the medium and long term. Increasingly, we're seeing organizations not just pushing stuff out when it suits them, but they're building a workflow that's dynamic, with daisy chaining companies and prospects from one campaign into another, and building campaigns that work and run at variable pace. So they work at the pace of the individuals. So I'm showing these slides here, not for sort of, workflow envy or something, but just to start saying the best thing marketers, I think, can do today is, look, we all love the creative, but the best thing you can do is invest in a blank wall and post-it notes and start mapping out those workflows, because build them in. The idea that campaigns run for just a quarter now is rubbish. Campaigns can last for 2 or 3 years, and create time and create advantage for yourselves in your organizations. An example of that is the work we've been doing with Dell. This campaign's been running 4 years. So we're grabbing data from the Philippines, we're flipping it around and automatically putting it into a marketing program. We're fetching that data 10 times a day. Had we tried to do it manually, it just would have fallen apart. So with the process there, it enables you to get on to doing more of the fun stuff. Sony themselves talk about a 2-year customer engagement time frame. They talk about the client acquisition, the pre-purchase, and then the post-purchase, the retention. And increasingly, we are seeing organizations build a model around this concept of acquisition, development, and then retention as well, again around share of wallet. So I really encourage you all to start thinking longer term horizons in terms of your planning. For those of you who work in European or work in US organizations, we're a little bit different over here from the US. The US culture is very much around lead gen or demand gen, as they call it. It's all about sales and filling the funnel of new prospects. And they can do it that way because it's a big market, it's a very homogenized market. In Europe, we have a higher currency around nurturing, loyalty, segmentation, but also data governance and privacy is much higher as well. So if you are looking at automation, think of it not just for new development or expanding share of wallet. Again, it goes back to this idea of corporate character and governance that the IBM study talked about as well. And the other thing I would say as well is that in your campaigns, Europeans like stuff to be mixed up. So email with webinar with a little bit of telephone works brilliantly. If you just send email after email after email, it sort of bludgeons people. We see a sort of a U-turn in terms of productivity for email, so that after a while habituation kicks in and open rates sort of tail down, if you like. But then after a while, the engagement and that idea of familiarity, if you've got good content, kicks back in, and actually engagement rates go back up. So what else can be done? I mentioned ever greater use of technology and use it imaginatively. Here's some ideas as well. So this is a company called Annuity Direct, small company actually on the Isle of Wight. They help organizations or individuals get better annuity rates rather than just buying them from a pension company. It's a pretty flat market, but what they've done around their campaigns is the campaigns actually start when the sales agent finishes the call, and the sales agent will say, okay, Mr. Customer, we'd just like to get some feedback on your service. Are you happy, or are you dissatisfied, or is there any way we can improve it? And if they say yes, the sales agent literally fills in the landing page and submits. And that person is automatically taken on a journey that, if they had a great experience, they're then asked, will they be a case study or a reference, or will they forward it to a friend, because it's about saving people lots of money here. If they've had a really bad experience, they go into a different process, which is all about resolving any of their issues and increasing their net promoter score and customer satisfaction. as a result of this level of engagement, again, it reinforces the idea that marketing isn't just about promoting to new customers, but it's servicing existing ones. They had a 70% increase in inbound activity, and now they're at capacity. And what that now means is they can stop providing that level of marketing campaign engagement, but when their funnel starts falling down again, they can just switch it back in as well. So in a services business, you want that linearity, you want that predictability over time. If you're in a software or product-based business, you can scale to your heart's content. Mentioned a bit about the infrastructure. Gartner talking about that 2015 top 20 organizations will have information infrastructure in place. You hear a lot about the cookie laws. We use marketing automation in our own organization to track cookie acceptance. Again, it just provides that level of auditing capability. And increasingly, we're seeing that. And more and more organizations now as well are thinking about the idea of an information infrastructure, whereby they are building out this architecture planning. The very large organizations are building their marketing infrastructure to link into their data warehousing. But in small, medium-sized businesses, mid-market size, the marketing automation should be your core infrastructure play, not the CRM. If you over-rely on the CRM, it becomes a final dumping ground of lots of data and contacts. But the real value or the real intelligence is knowing where people are and their level of engagement, cross-sell and upsell purposes. Some other stuff going on out there in the marketplace as well. Lots of people talking about how do you integrate webinars. For some of our clients now, we're tracking the amount of time people are on webinars because it gives you an idea of their level of engagement. So if some of you are still here, it hopefully means that this content is relevant, you might be interested. Those that didn't attend or dropped off after 2 or 3 minutes would automatically get a different message as well. For people like PayPal, and something to think about as well, if you've come across Mary Meeker, it's definitely worth checking out on the web, Kleiner Perkins. That inflection point between desktop and mobile is happening certainly in the US at the moment, and so organizations want to optimize their campaigns for any device. Again, this is something you can do very quickly and easily in your MA platforms, and we're doing that for people like PayPal. One thing we're playing with at the moment is the idea of having dynamic telephone numbers so that individuals can have different phone numbers or different phone numbers specific for campaigns. Again, so you can track that initial source of engagement. And that's one of the challenges for marketeers. If you track that initial source of engagement, then the ability to justify and show that ROI is so much stronger. I will try and speed up, if I may. Intelligent integration, some companies now are sort of integrating pre-populated landing forms, so as people fill out landing forms, it intelligently auto-populates. Not sure that's necessarily the smartest thing to do, but certainly you want that experience for the customer to be as seamless as possible. Around lead generation, social was the big one that the CMOs are struggling to get their head around. We break it into 3 really. A lot of organizations are doing share to social. This is the forward to a friend buttons, like buttons and so forth. In about 30% of organizations today, they're doing that. It's a great way to systemize word of mouth. One of the most powerful opportunities ahead of you, and less than 5% of our customer base is doing it at the moment, is this concept of social sign-on. This is the ability to publish content on multiple forums, be it Google+, Facebook, LinkedIn, or Twitter, and have a seamless sign-on, and something that is very transparent for the end user. It's got massive, massive potential. I'd encourage all of you to start looking at that. And then there's the area of social intelligence, which I'll touch on as well. So on this social sign-on, this is what it looks like. This basically means you're able to now publish your existing content, not just on your emails or through your web, but promote it into groups or various sort of associations that you might be, networks you're engaged with. And this enables the end user to be able to download material without having to fill in a landing page. It's so much more natural, and it suddenly means you can get to massive communities that have already shown or a level of pre-qualification already. Do read around this because it's such a powerful opportunity. We've been implementing it as a bespoke capability, but more and more platforms like Pardo, where it's coming in Pardo, it's there in some of the other platforms like Marketo and Eloqua already, but you can have standalone solutions. This really explains the format. So the end user goes through their existing Facebook to grab content, and there's nothing to sign in, but you're capturing all that information. Really, really powerful. Very quickly, social intelligence, where's that going? Well, what this now means is that with your marketing automation and your campaigns, you can now listen for conversation on the social sphere. So it's about listening for unstructured conversations and engaging those people. They might be competitors, they might be people looking for content or industry experts on your subject matter. And that's powerful, not just for marketing, but also for sales as well now. There's a lot of work from, a lot of research from the likes of Forrester and Aberdeen that talk about this concept of social selling. And again, for yourself, I would encourage you to read up around social selling and take it back into your organization. Those salespeople that talk about industry issues and be seen and respected for their subject matter, rather than just pushing product down people's throats, are much more likely to succeed and sell more and at higher levels as well. One of the things, or one of the ways we're approaching it is this, as I say, this product called CrowdView, which gives you the ability to search, enrich, and then connect to people talking about your industry issues or pain points. So what you're able to do with this platform is you're able to put in a search term. So I'm interested in managed print services and anyone discussing this on the social spheres. And then it brings back the individuals that are having those conversations. And then we're able to say, right, okay, I only want people that are influencers, or I want to look at them by language, by country, location, language. And then you can start getting a predefined view of these individuals, and then you can say, right, I only want to then identify people with an email address or a LinkedIn address and so forth. It suddenly becomes really powerful, not only for the marketing program, because you can drop them directly into a campaign, but for social selling and for listening for sales opportunities. It's really, really powerful as well. So social selling is very, very pertinent, and I'd encourage you to, if you're interested in this subject, check out Aberdeen and Forrester. It's not about product features and bake-offs anymore. And I see it a lot on LinkedIn or whatever. Continually, the salespeople that are most successful are those that don't talk about products but engage in debate and issues-based selling. Really, really powerful. And then finally, I talked about ecosystems and infrastructure. More and more of the organizations, Pardo, Marketo, Eloqua and the like, they're building out ecosystems of complementary technologies that map into their products. And so as marketers, it's really all about the API now, that application programming interface. Your role as marketeers is to serve and publish your content once you've worked out your marketing strategy across all platforms. But one of the takeaways of building this marketing infrastructure is the rigorous pursuit in the reduction of silos. And if technologies and systems you're using today don't have that ability to talk to other platforms, then you're just creating more work, more spreadsheets, and it's just going to lead to more lead leakage. Build that infrastructure. And so hopefully my takeaway from here, I apologize for going over too long, I do apologize there. Creativity is important, brand and identity, it's the fun stuff, but it's no longer the basis of outperformance. As marketeers, you need to track the initial source of contact, but start even moving away from marketing ROI to think about marketing forecasting. Taking that number back to the boardroom and driving that end-to-end process is all about, is really leads to driving revenue outperformance and driving change in a business. Really understand what technology can do to the business and how you're using it today. maybe you might have email, and you might have Google Analytics, and you might be using Twitter and Hootsuite and web as well. And if you're doing that, that's fine, but you're missing the point. You need to bring them together in an integrated and coherent way. So by all means, focus on the tactical and the quick and dirty activities today, but start building longer-term campaigns that run for more than just a quarter. And as I say, as you move up within organizations or you drive change, leave a legacy behind. So I'm hoping this graphic here, very, very simplified, and then you can add additional technologies in here, but hopefully it makes sense on the basis that the web now is the hub and central to everything you do. You need that balance between both inbound and outbound activity. And then finally, marketing should be a source of innovation. It's what the CEO wants. But before you can think outside the box, you need to create it first. Okay, so hopefully that made sense. Hopefully it sparked some new thinking, whether it's about your targeting, the role of content, building the infrastructure. If there's any questions out there, love to take them.
Hey Adam, it's Scott. I thought that, thank you for a fantastic presentation. There's some questions that have come in, and there's a couple from here as well. Cost-wise, people often assume that the approach of using technology and everything that you outlined is expensive. It requires incremental budget. It's just for big companies. What's your experience?
Traditionally, it was the sort of the preserve of the very big companies, but I think the smallest company we work with is about 4 or 5 people, because the cost of deploying automation has come down massively with the likes of Pardo and Acton software there as well. So entry level is around about the $500 per month, and because it is monthly, it's quite easy to switch it on. And again, it goes right back to that point at the start. The allocation of budget has changed significantly. So now, while it is an investment to get it going, and yes, it's more than email, by having it in place, you're taking budget from other places. So it really is a zero-sum game. In that it won't cost you incremental, you're just reallocating budget.
Number 2 was, our experience is that when people initially come across and think about marketing automation, they often think it's about automating marketing processes, whereas the big wins are really about driving sales effectiveness in terms of being able to identify who's ready for a sales experience. What's your experience of that?
Yes, totally. So while the software costs a little bit to get going, there are some wider issues. You need to think about the skills in your organization, and either bring in people that understand data and analytics, that are pretty good at workflow and can build that, or frankly need to work with someone like yourself, Scott, to get the stuff going. But what it does force, as I say, it does force that sales and marketing alignment if it's done properly. The worst scenarios we see is when people rush away because they've seen the demo, they love it, they think we need it, it makes sense, and yes, it does, but they're not properly prepared for it. So some of the important wins are getting that data and understanding the total addressable market in place, looking at what assets and where they go, having that end-to-end process in place, and make sure the skills are there, and look for the quick wins, but build that longer-term campaign thinking as well.
We've got one about the difference between the top of the funnel and the middle of the funnel. We see lots of companies that are, I guess, seduced by the need to excel at inbound or top of the funnel in order to generate more leads, the ability to be found on the internet, and then to use your website to convert them into leads, which are often poor quality. I mean, HubSpot's outstanding at that, but most of the companies that we see, the real value is being able to nurture high value leads through the funnel to close, which the more thoroughbred marketing automation platforms like Pardo or Marketo excel at. How do you see the kind of inbound versus through the funnel?
Yeah, I mean, if I look at HubSpot, a little bit cynical to some of the positioning, because they sort of have seduced marketers with this always on caffeine smile of hype, and it's the content I think is wonderful. Their concept of inbound is really interesting, but also I think as marketing you need both the inbound and the outbound, and you're spot on, Scott, because HubSpot were magnificent about talking about inbound only, primarily because they didn't have an email engine originally. And if you look at their own activities, and you mentioned Sirius, I know Sirius Decisions work with HubSpot because they were doing great at identifying the top of funnel, so lots of awareness and lots of hype. And frankly, I would recommend their book, the Inbound Marketing book, is a stunning and fun read. But they were very poor at that middle of the funnel nurturing. And I mentioned in Europe, we hold much higher currency around nurturing and building out that existing share of wallet and engaging, whereas the American approach is very much, let's just focus on the awareness and the top of the funnel stuff. What I would say, and we always say to clients, Pano is very strong at that middle of funnel nurturing capability. The way they integrate search, tracking it into their product is really powerful as well. So by all means be seduced with the inbound story, and I say I encourage people to read the book, Inbound Marketing, from the CEO of HubSpot, but I do think marketers need to take a pragmatic, more of a middle of the funnel approach. So I think that the Pano capability is a little bit stronger there, frankly.
Okay, one final one as well is that, I mean, the concept of social selling is very important. What experience have you got of companies beginning to educate their sales team in terms of how to sell in social channels, and what's involved in that?
We're seeing it quite a lot, well, a huge amount actually. And when we actually developed the CrowdView product, we were thinking purely from the marketing perspective. It would be great to listen to conversations that automatically engage people in a campaign, whether it's an influencer campaign or a competitive takeout campaign or a existing customer advocacy campaign. But what we found was more and more of the sales leadership of some of our clients would say, "Oh, can you just identify people talking about this subject matter or this area here?" And what we found was more and more the traditional sales culture of let me do a presentation talking about my product is just falling by the wayside. The sales executive, the sales leadership is seeing that their best performers really are the people that engage in thought leadership and understand their client base and understand the issues rather than just talking product at them. And so we've seen a huge interest on that side of the house. We're talking to some really large organisations at the moment that have actually set up sales enablement channels within their organisation and using social selling to great effect. And it just makes sense. So as I say, I really encourage people to read up around this concept of social selling, because it's really powerful and a new idea that people should take to their organisations.
That's brilliant, Adam. Look, I'd like to say on behalf of everyone that joined us today and watches the on-demand version, thank you so much for sharing your time with us, and also some fantastic insights on how marketing can be an agent of change and get onto the front foot and be strategic and deliver what the CEO wants.
Great. Well, thanks for the opportunity, and we will be sharing this, Scott. If anyone wants it, they just get in touch with yourself. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. Thank you all, everyone. Thanks so much. Cheers. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.